for being here. Thank you for watching us in the Dossier Project. So today we have a current topic that it's still, it happened a few weeks ago. It's still going on. And we would like to talk about we call it the Spanish kiss. I'm sure some of you viewers know that Luis Rubiales, he recently resigned. He was the president for the Spanish Football Federation or Association. And, Spain was playing the FIFA World Cup, which was actually, I think it was the most viewed women's soccer World Cup in all times. And, they did a great job. Spain played great. I mean, they made it to the final, they won. And during the awards ceremony, how they line up. If you've ever watched World Cup, what they do is the people, the presidents and the federations, and in this case, the queen, she was there. They go and they put up the medals of the players, and they handshake or hug or whatever, and then they kiss a trophy, and that's kind of like how it goes. So as they were doing that, they were passing, and this one player, her name is Jenni Hermoso. She as she was passing, she was one of the last ones actually to go. As she was hugging the president, this man Luis Rubiales. If you've seen the video, this is very, very interesting. He jumps up to her, like he wraps his legs around her and hugs her and gives her a peck, on the lips. And if you see the video, we've seen the video from different angles. She looks happy. They're all very excited. It's just like, in the moment of winning. So after that happened, I think she started saying that she didn't, the kiss wasn't welcome. And so, long story short, this guy just presented his resignation, not accepting guilt, actually. He's very clear about how he didn't do anything. He doesn't believe he did anything wrong. He says that, because of the speed that the FIFA had taken into this case, he knew that he wasn't going to be able to come back, and he didn't want to hurt the Spanish soccer in general. So he submitted his resignation. So yeah, I want to, with this, I want to open it up to us and discuss, well, first of all, why are we talking about it? Like, why, as a Dossier Project, we believe this is an important topic to talk about. So I'm opening it to you guys. First of all, sorry, before we do it, if you like this, please like, subscribe, and share to our YouTube channel. And yeah, I open it to you guys. So why is it important for us to bring this topic?
I can just say, Ange, when you first brought it to us, it hit super near and close to home for me, because similarly in this situation, I participated in something with a group of women, and after the fact, they had said that they didn't like it, and there were consequences very similar to what he's experiencing in terms of losing my career, my livelihood, having my license revoked, etc. So for me, I find myself in a very interesting position, because oftentimes, women are supporting women in this situation, in the Me Too movement, or in scenarios like this. It's considered women's empowerment to really rally behind women being sexualized or harassed or things like that. And I kind of have a different perspective because of my life experience. So I play the devil's advocate a little bit, because something like this, I don't know about you guys, but as I was watching along, it's so clear how genuinely excited he is, and all the players are, because they just played a great game and they won, and they've spent their whole lives preparing for this, and his excitement is ridiculously contagious. If you watch him greet each player and hug them and lift them up and pat them, and it's so clear that there's just this beautiful innocence of excitement that I see. And in the heat of the moment, or in that excitement, just hugs her, grabs her face, kisses her, she's smiling, walks off. It doesn't seem to be any type of like shock or like anything like that. Now granted, she afterwards she may have thought about it, or we know she was teased in the locker room, and how do you handle something like that afterwards? As a woman, it can be awkward to try to deal with that. But at the same time, something so innocent as that, for a man to lose his entire livelihood at an Olympic level, to me seems extremely blown out of proportion and egregious in terms of the type of response to something like that. To me, that should be like a conversation behind closed doors about like, I really don't appreciate that in the public, or like some conversation between two adults to be able to address their own feelings in their very obviously close relationship. So I find it very interesting to look at that, and also the gender biases.
I'm kind of wondering, why is this news?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we talking about this? Like literally, a man kissed a woman like on the lips, and it happened to be in front of media. Like if media wasn't watching in the context, yes, it was sports, etc. But why are we talking about? Why is this news? Why is this I agree. Like if it was behind closed doors, like, this could be he said, she said. If it was clearly unwanted, if it was assault, I think if you look at it, it's very clear he wasn't intending to harm her. All of, it was just maybe got caught up in the moment, and was it maybe a mistake? Was it a sign of maybe, poor judgment or something, right? That kissed her on the lips, versus other women notice he kissed on the cheeks, the kissing on the lips. I'll be honest, if someone were, that I didn't know, or maybe even know, just randomly kissed me on the lips, I would have a problem with that. I'm like, no, but to, maybe get carried away, but in the context of the situation and so forth, it's just like, okay, maybe not good judgment, maybe a mistake. Maybe got carried away in the moment. Does that warrant losing his career, his livelihood? Why is this news? Yeah.
I just think that there's a lot of situations like this being used to say, here we go again, and I don't think we're gonna see a shortage of these kinds of situations. I mean, I feel like also at this point, I'm like, come on, bro, like you should know better. You can't just be kissing people on national television and just think people are gonna brush it aside, like not unfortunately, I agree with you, Linda. Like I think if someone kissed me that I didn't ask for, I'd be like, whoa. But I don't know that I would want, like, I just don't understand like why we're kind of waging global campaigns about it. I don't think that's something that we've seen before. And people are saying things like this kind of ruined the moment for women's soccer, but it didn't have to, and I think to really bring so much attention to it in the way that they are, I think is what's doing it, not the act itself so much. So I just think it's an interesting, bringing it up, because I think how the media takes things, I don't think there's anyone supporting him. And I just think there's always more to the story than what we see, which I think is consistent with things that we cover and talk about, because I think it's just really easy to be like, fuck this guy, get this guy and fire him, and when he was defending himself, I was just like, there's no way he's going to be allowed to not resign. It's not really up to him.
Again, to play devil's advocate too, I mean, I get if it was somebody that you didn't know, or somebody that, whatever, it might be uncomfortable to kiss you on the lips too. But it's interesting. And like you said, Michelle, there's always, another side of the story we don't see. Angie, you went to go play a video that we looked at yesterday, and just a day later, that video has been taken down. And in that video that we watched yesterday, it shows some other footage of how those two have been interacting. And it does seem that they have a closer relationship than him, than the president and some of the other women on the team. they're in the locker room. He's got his arm around her. They're both smiling. They're teasing her about, when the wedding is going to be. And, she's clearly laughing and joking with him. So they clearly have a certain type of rapport and a certain type of relationship. They've trained together to this high elite level through ups and downs and grit and all that stuff. This isn't just a stranger like kissing somebody on the face. Like there's a co-participatory relationship happening here. And I get from the female perspective, there may be pressure to, oh, wow, was that, maybe somebody in the locker room, did you like that kiss? Or I didn't like it, but well, she either has the, what did you say, Michelle? She either has the choice to say like, this was sexual assault, or I liked it,
Well, yeah, I mean, I think if it was obviously filmed, so, that happens, people are going to be like, well, are you guys a thing? Like, and you either have to go in front of the world and say, oh, it wasn't a big deal, even though it's never happened before, it's fine. You have to be that person, or you say, I think come out and say what she's saying. So I think there's media pressure, and I don't know how it all went down. He seems to be still defending his position that it was consensual, that he asked, she said yes, and it happened and it was over. But I think there's a double standard. Like, I think you're always going to, it doesn't matter if it was consensual in the moment. If she says it's not at this point, no one's going to believe him, even if it was. And we just can't really know, but I think it's a lose-lose situation for a guy in that situation. If a woman says it wasn't, even if it was in that moment, he's done.
And think about like it's like grade school almost, like teasing. You just maybe want the teasing to stop, because like let's just say she actually does like him, right? And then she doesn't want, to be teased about it because maybe she does, So it's just like, oh, okay, then just kind of squash it down to make the people stop teasing her, and if she doesn't like it, then it's like, okay, and then maybe like, oh yeah, and it's like a bigger deal than, oh yeah, it didn't, and it's like whatever you decide, like what happened, but the story afterwards can change like that based on how other people say and a view, and their, it's just like quarterback, I don't know what's the phrase, weekend quarterback, like people watching and be like, oh, you could have done this and this and this and this, it's like you weren't there.
Two things that I wanted to say is that the first one is like, okay, let's assume that the kiss wasn't consensual, because like it was so fast, right? Like he couldn't have asked her, I agree with Danielle, what she was saying. It does look like they did have a different type of relationship. She's the only one that gets, like he jumps up and like wraps his legs around. You can't see it in that take of the video, but in other ones, if you look at it, he jumps up and wraps his legs around her and gives her a hug and, gives her a kiss. So to me, I don't know, of course, I'm not there, but it does look like they did have some other type of relationship also, with the other video that got taken down. You could kind of see that. But let's assume that no, she didn't like it and she didn't want it. For me, what comes up is like, is that enough to take his livelihood away? Like, how is this measurable to each other? Do you know what I mean? Like, it does feel completely disproportionate, and it's not the first time we see it, right? Like we're talking about this, and I found it super close to my heart because I really think that this is something very similar in process what happened to our group. Like there were some things that happened, and now women claim that they were non-consensual, and then it's like we have someone in prison for 120 years, and different people went to prison for things that Danielle, you just lost your license and you can't perform as a doctor anymore. So it's like, is it proportionate? clearly not. To me, this is completely disproportionate. And now the other thing that we were talking about is the gender bias. If this happened, which has happened, right? If this happens with the female gender, you know, if someone, Katy Perry, right? I think it was, we were talking about her.
Yeah, we just so happened to have a similar video come across our videos at the same time, which actually shows it.
Yeah. So if that happens, then, you know, what's the consequence for the woman?
So for those of you that don't know, there's a very similar video of Katy Perry in, is it American Idol? It's the auditions for either American Idol or one of the audition shows, one of those reality audition shows. And in the audition, there is a very sweet man that is auditioning for this. I'm even like, see, I'm importing my bias already. There's a very sweet man, like I'm already empathizing with him. But if you watch the video before he does his audition, they're having a conversation about the fact that you know, he's never been intimate with a woman, he's never had a kiss with a woman, and Katy Perry says, "Come over here," you know, and she like lets him kiss her on the cheek, and then at the last minute when he does it again, she tricks him and she kisses him on the lips, and he like visibly was horrified and fell to the floor and like got up and was like visibly disturbed. You know, this wasn't the same case we just saw where the woman, it happened and she was fine. And, you know, after he pulled away and, you know, was visibly disturbed, he even asked for a glass of water, and they continued to kind of mock and berate him like, "Oh, your first kiss is with Katy Perry, like you should like it." You know, like there's a visible mocking going on and fist pumping her because she did it. And I was horrified. Now, Katy Perry didn't lose her livelihood. She wasn't dragged through the mud. So what do you ladies think about the comparison of these two situations?
I think she got some like flack for it on social media, from what I understand, but I don't think, I mean, she wasn't canceled, you know, because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I often watch things like that and, you know that if it were reversed, you know, if that had been a woman and a man did that to her in that same situation, I mean, I felt so bad for that guy. Like it was really sad, actually. You know, it was really bad. And then, but I was thinking how I think the worst part was that it was really okay with everyone, that they were making fun of him, that he should think it's okay. And like, they were like giving daps to Katy Perry. So I think there's an incredible double standard. I just think people want to have it both ways and we can't. So I just think like in both situations, it's like we should, you know, if they're going to call for Homeboy's head, like they should have called for Katy Perry's head or left him alone in the same way that they left her alone.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. Yep. Amen. We want equality so
I
bad,
also,
right?
yeah, exactly. And also, I mean, she's like a world-class athlete, you know. I'm just like, I'm not saying it's right. You know, I would be like not welcomed if that was how I felt, you know. And I know sometimes it does, like when you're in the moment of things, like and things settle after, it's kind of like, eh. But I think that's more of a personal thing, you know, like that's like you, I think Angie said, like that's a conversation with that person. Like, I don't appreciate that. Don't do that. So I just wonder like what people gain by kind of waging like a whole furthering a campaign that stands for what I'm not really sure anymore. Um, you know, from an incident like this, but she's like a world-class athlete. I just feel like she's like a pretty tough woman, you know, like she's trained, she's been through a lot of stuff. I'm just kind of shocked that like a kiss is what's breaking her. That's
Well, and you know how you said that, it gets me too, that it totally stole the thunder. Is that how you say it? Stole their thunder. And they were so happy, they fought for this so much. You know, women have been fighting to be, you know, considered in different scenarios, right? We have been fighting, and our, you know, generations ago have been fighting to be considered in a different way. And they fight, you know, like this was the most watched tournament of women, you know, in soccer. you know, and they win. And suddenly we're talking about this other thing,
Ugh,
you know,
It's
it's
like the
like,
buying into the distraction.
yeah. And as women, that we are allowing that, you know, to be the main thing. Like, I don't know. I agree with you, Misha. I think you said that it was like it hurts soccer, right? It hurts the sport, and it also hurts all the efforts that the women have been making to make progress. And you know, this equality thing, you know, that's like a whole other conversation, because I don't think it's necessarily equal, but I do agree that, you know, as human beings, you know, and if they're playing good sport, they played amazing. That was good soccer. Sorry, I get like super excited on the side. That's, you can see.
God, yes.
But they really played well. And
No one's talking about that.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then we end up talking about this other thing. And I think it's what we were talking, me and Danielle, yesterday. We were like, it's understandable that we as women, you know, we have been not, you know, we have been treated, you know, not in the best way. Like, we've been trying to be considered, to be, you know, more out there. And I don't think it's okay to just, you know, grab someone because you want it. You know, if that was the case, I like, that's might is right, and that's not good for any of us. But the way we're doing it, and I say we as women, like the movement, the Me Too, the, you know, all these disproportionate things, blowing things out of proportion and taking people's livelihoods away, I think that's just not the way that we need to go. You know, it's hurting us way more than helping us. So
I have one more question that I'm curious about. There was, we were talking yesterday too, Ange, and there is one more video that I had posted recently on my stories. And it's a beautiful video about a journalist that was interviewing male athletes. And the journalist was asking all of the male athletes these very sexist questions, like, if you could date anybody, who would you date? And this was after like they won, you know, the World Cup or something like that, you know, or could you just do a twirl in that outfit? Just show us how you look in your outfit, you know? And the guys are like, what? Are you serious? Dude, I'm out. You know, and then it cuts to a female athlete being interviewed after her world championship. And they say, you know, go ahead, do a little twirl, show us. And, you know, the whole crowd roars and all of that stuff. And the question was, why is it okay to ask these types of questions to professional female athletes when it's not okay to ask these questions to male athletes? And I think, you know, obviously it exposes the gender bias again. And the question that I thought was interesting that Angie and I discussed was like, well, like, why do we think women are responding these ways? Michelle, you say she's a world-class athlete. Why, you know, how could this kiss be the thing that's breaking her? Well, why would it be that women are using their power in this way to destroy a man's career? Is there something going on behind the scenes? Are women struggling to actually be heard or seen as professional athletes and get respect as professional athletes? And they're using this as a way to exert some sort of power or control. But what do you ladies think about that?
I know that there are, you know, in the position that I'm at, you know, I'm a housewife. You know, I decided to leave my career because I'm raising my children, and, you know, I'm 100% dependent financially on my husband. And there are times that I feel like so, you know, just like constrained, and like I can't really do the things that I want. That's how I feel, right? Like it's more like a victim type of mentality. But there are times that, of course, like it hits me and I'm like, what did I do? You know, like I want to do all these things and now I feel like I can't. And so like the only, not the only, but one of the things that I could think of is that if, you know, if we're striving as women to be considered, to be taken seriously, to be equal, to be, you know, just in a different place, and then we somehow don't feel like we can get it, like there's, you know, how they talk about like the glass ceiling, and like there's something that feels like it's just not there yet. And we do have something that we can, you know, use our power on, and that's our, you know, our sensuality, our, you know, just sex, and the way that we interact with men in that way. So, you know, it's one thing that I can think of is that we might actually just feel more powerful that way, and that's something that, you know, we can use. And
it has very big
You
effects.
wonder. Yeah, well, it makes you wonder if that's like, if really the how we do it, can you do it, choose to use it, use that as like a weapon, and really for us to feel better at the expense of taking down other people, really, like, and it doesn't matter gender, like people who, you know, are just stepping over people, it doesn't have to be that way, I think. So I think regardless, and if you feel limited in terms of how you can climb the mountain, and the only way you can is by bringing other people down, you know, that's more sad, I think, than anything. And I think you can feel limited, but, you know, it's just like, well, there are other ways you can learn how to, you know, build value. You can learn how to get better. You can learn how to be a stronger person, build self-esteem, you know, not at the expense of other people. So.
right.
You know, if the women were feeling leveled, you know, like in the commercial I just described, that their, you know, their abilities are clearly not being recognized by the world in the way that men's do. You know, there's also protesting. You know, there's also like choosing not to play, you know, or doing certain things together, united, to be able to have an effect, to be recognized, or have their skills be recognized without using this other card, like you're saying, Linda. Or the other thing I also wonder is, you know, if the men running the sport behind the scenes liked the president, you know, or if there weren't other problems going on, like, is this a way, you know, his organization reacted so very quickly to him to get him out. You know, it's almost like, are women being used as a pawn in this situation? It's like, we know if we bring up a sexual thing, we can usher him out very quickly, you know, and is this still another way to use women, and the men behind the scene are still kind of controlling the moves? So it's all, you know, I think there's a lot more to unpack and talk about within the whole dynamic, but
Yeah.
I agree with you. There's better ways, you know, there are better ways to get at the real issues than, you know, using a card like that.
So I'm adding a couple thoughts. This is after I've listened to the discussion everyone else had. I wasn't there at the time. So one thing I wanted to talk about was just questioning whether it's appropriate that he has this relationship with the player at all, given their professional roles. And like what came to my mind was, would we expect to see the president of the football club kissing a male player if it had been the men's team had won the World Cup? And like, that would be really unusual to me. I wouldn't expect to see that. So definitely there is, to my mind, something about the male female dynamic going on between them in this kiss. And, you know, I might question whether that should be something we question, because I don't believe that is professional conduct. And when you're acting as professionals, even if you have that warmth of a relationship, even if there is, you know, between many men and women, as I've mentioned in other videos, I think there is like this dynamic and this frequency between men and women, as long as both are straight, that's kind of unavoidable. But we're also like cognitive beings. We should be able to put that aside, and can we act professional? So if you're acting in a professional capacity, you know, maybe that sexual frequency shouldn't be part of it, and we conduct ourselves, you know, in that way as professionals. She's a professional athlete, he's a professional, he's the president. So I might say the kiss is inappropriate. That said, is it necessary or reasonable that he would lose his position, or, you know, be forced out, or whatever, however you think that went down? Should there be that big an outcry? well, on the one hand, I agree with Linda, like, why is this news? I think it really takes away from the accomplishment of the women's teams. And I think that's garbage because we should be celebrating their accomplishment. But on the other hand, perhaps if you are at that high level of stature in the world, maybe you are held to that highest standard, that there is no room for conducting yourself as anything less than professional. So I think there's a lot to talk about here. I don't think it's been handled well. The little I know about it, it seems more like just a media sensation. And I don't see that there's been great gains or forward movement about understanding professionalism, women's athleticism, male-female dynamics, consent. I don't think any of that has really moved forward, unfortunately. But I think we're starting to. Maybe this is part of it and how it can contribute to gains in those areas.
Thank you. I know it's time for us to wrap up, but thank you everyone for your insights, and thank you for watching. Again, please, if you liked it, like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see each other soon. Thank you, everyone.